resume budget committee meetings. Today is July 13th and time is 3:12. We're going to start with 1160.
Yes, that's where we left off yesterday.
Fund 1160, Recorder Security Protection.
Do we have any clue why we went from 6,600 in redacting to 41?
I do not have an explanation of that.
And $1,000 service agreement.
I don't have anything for explanation, but I know that redacting is something that's an ongoing process.
One of them works.
I know Chris wanted to redo one of their budgets because he had to add something, but I think it was recorder perpetuation. He didn't
That
say
was the
anything about-
perpetuation fund
Yeah,
that
he
they
didn't say
did.
anything about this.
Do you have a balance on this? What's the revenue?
I have it if you want me to look. Yeah. The recorder security protection, it has a revenue of about 16,400 per year.
And that comes from what? Just
It's fees that
just
they
their fees?
collect when they record documents.
It would be good to know, do they use an outside service for the redacting? Because I look on the second page, and it's got professional services. But is it an outside firm that they pay? And did
Yes.
their fees go up more than double for some reason?
I don't know if the fees went up or if it's just more of them. Maybe if they're starting a new project, they may have.
They haven't spent, well, it says there's zero's been expended for 2022. Okay. And what looks like appropriations. And it looks like 18,495, 2021. So, yeah. Well, do you,
Judy, you said, what did they spend? They spent money in redacting? On 623, is that what you said? Wonder why it didn't show up in the maybe they printed this before. I bet you they printed it before June 30th. we started our meetings in June, I bet you,
Yeah, I think we met
So-
before June.
yeah, in June, so
End
there
of
was,
June.
that would probably explain the difference there.
And why do we not have the 2021 adopted budget? Because it looks like, I mean, they've spent 18,495 in 2021, but we don't know what the budget was for that year.
The 2021 adopted budget was 14,100.
Oh, just total with the service agreements.
Yeah, because they did not have redacting.
Well, redacting
But then they-
expenditures were 18,495 in 2021.
Total, but
But they didn't budget.
I can explain, but it,
Does that mean they came and got an appropriation for it? Probably.
well, it would show up in the total budget.
And if their total budget for 2021 was 14,100, and they spent 24,145. That's okay.
Sorry.
So it is a contract for an outside.
Yeah. And then there was an extra for auto index annual maintenance, it was $5,650.
That's under service agreements. Right there.
Mm-hmm. That's why it came to, yeah.
But
Oh, if there's an annual,
there's redacting for 18,495, and what'd you say is 14,100?
14,100 on this claim, yeah.
So there's an extra $4,395
yep.
that was for something else.
July 1st to CSI Computer Systems.
okay, so if they have an annual contract of 14,100, why was the budget for 2022 only $6,600? But they, and then,
Well, it's, they put it in service agreement is what it looks like.
But they
Oh,
bumped
yeah.
the exchange for the redacting for this year.
and then added another $16,000 for service agreements? For what?
Can't answer that.
Mm-mm. Don't know, no explanation.
Anybody else not seeing it?
Well, if they got a contract for redacting 14-1, that does.
But see, and it looks like they went, took that there, put it there, then, that,
See if I have any 2022 notes.
Revenue's 16,000 roughly per year.
Yeah, that's what, we'll see, yeah. 16.4.
16.
and it just, it's coincidental that the 30,200 they're asking for, the balance, in their account is 30,116. That's just coincidental, I'm sure. Yeah.
They have not. Do they get about that same amount every year, revenue-wise?
14.1, because I remember when they came in office and I had to help Chris with it, so I do know it was 14.1 for the redacting.
Well, in 2022, that 14-1 is in service agreements, then it looks like that it was moved to the 2023 request into redacting, but that doesn't explain what the 16-1 is. For service
Yeah,
agreement.
I don't,
I think we probably need to.
Just ask them and then come back to it.
they paid that 14-1. No, they didn't. Yeah, it looks like maybe they paid that previously out of service agreements.
Yeah, because it's in the 2021 budget and the 2022 budget. And there was 0 in redacting. Well, no. Yeah,
Well-
this whole sheet doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Back, how about that?
Go to Fund 1189, Recorder Perpetual.
This is a big change.
Cash balance on that's $1,025,581.32.
Revenue,
That's balance, cash balance.
Revenue's about,
Oh.
estimated about 260,000 per year.
Okay. What's the 500,000 contractual service for that wasn't ever there before?
I think they're gonna do some type of project,
Some sort of project, but I don't,
because he told me he needed to redo his budget and add that in, but I don't know what it was for.
So they brought down, oh, I guess they didn't have office supplies. So in 2022, was most of that just blank?
2022, normally they do not appropriate anything other than payroll. And for 23, they put all of that in there.
where is that normally?
It's, they do not have to have an appropriation for the perpetuation fund.
So they can, that's right,
They can spend it how they like. As long as it,
with or without
yeah,
council, right?
that. They do not, appropriation is not required except for payroll.
Okay.
I don't really know why they put a budget in this year. I questioned that.
You did, and oh, you would question that.
I did
Did.
question it. I asked them if something had changed that required that. and
This is
never
a-
got a response.
Just wanted us to come up first.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is the account they can spend whatever, you said without our consent anyhow, right? However they like it.
They can, but I mean, quite honestly, I don't know if they start putting appropriations in there, if that limits them, if it takes that ability away.
I think it
I
does.
mean, there, because I remember at one point, there was kind of a state board council, and this has been several years ago, state board council commented on, I mean, not in, an audit finding.
You'd have to ask them why they're budgeting it out this year.
Do some of our other perpetuation funds, though, have to have permission? You know?
Payroll only because council sets compensation, and you determine employees and all of that, so That's the only thing required. Now, I believe the clerk put some things in their perpetuation fund other than salaries. I don't know why they did that either. I don't have an explanation.
Maybe it's to help their office budget better.
Just
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Surveyor Cornerstone is easier.
Who?
Surveyor Cornerstone is the next one up.
You want me to go ahead and do that one?
Well, yeah, you knock that one out while you're waiting on them.
Fund 1202, Surveyor Cornerstone.
So they currently have, just under 382,000 in cash. Annual revenues is, 70,100 estimate.
Can you give me the balance one more time?
381,628.
This is one.
Last year, they purchased some software licenses, equipment. It all has to do with, GIS and different things. Kind of streamline what they're doing in GIS and connecting them to that and allowing them to do different things out in the field. So they had a major outlay last year, and so now they're trying to build back up. So,
And it looks like they've reduced it by about $20,000, and they are keeping the $5,000 because they wanna update 2 CPS units, and then equipment new.
so the stakes, they kept those the same.
The only thing that changed was the equipment new went down, well, licenses went away.
But if you look at, so they had an additional appropriation in their budget at
They
some point
transferred.
during the year. Well, it had to have been an additional, 'cause it's like 100,000.
I don't know, I've got transfer into new equipment from Stakes and Field.
Well-
$1,120.55.
But my 2022 adjusted budget says 150,000. There's no way they could have transferred that much. And they did transfer $1,100 out of,
Yeah, that's
but
what,
that went into equipment new.
mhm.
But the overall budget was, well, the overall adjustments was $150,000.
The contractual.
Yeah, if you look under contractual services, 33300, you should find that it, for 2022, is it 150,000?
Yeah, they haven't
I was
spent
gonna say,
it.
hasn't been spent yet, though.
They haven't spent
No,
it.
it's not been spent yet, but that's why I'm just telling you that their budget really wasn't 44,500 for the year. That's what was adopted, but there was amendments to the budget through additional
He
appropriation.
encumbered that from 2020.
Is that where it came from?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, so they're still waiting on that. So it's-
Yep.
Apparently it's a long drawn
And then
out
if you look
process.
at the 2021 note, it says the database combines all data into one searchable program.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're gonna get up and talk, you're gonna question. Hey.
The look on his face was priceless.
They don't bite hard. But let us finish this.
Let's
up
finish this one
quick.
real quick.
We can finish this one real quick. So we can finish this, but you're looking at a, what, $19,000 decrease overall? In the normal operating budget, I guess I should say.
Fair enough.
I move that we approve Fund 1202 as presented for the Surveyor's Cornerstone. For the 2023 budget.
25,000.
Oh, for 25,500, sorry.
Okay. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We'll go back to Fund 1160. Recorder Security Protection.
So,
Hi.
we really are friendly, we just don't, we
You're
just don't
good.
understand, that's
Okay.
the problem. It looks like, do you mind if I go ahead?
No.
I'm sorry.
Do you have the account that we're talking about?
The security protection.
Security Protection Fund?
1160.
Oh, yes. right
Okay,
here.
all right. Councilwoman Wilson?
Okay, it looks like, in 2022, you had, an amount of 14,100 for
Mhm.
service agreement
Yes.
and 6,600 for redacting. Then in 2023, it appears that you moved the 14,100 from service agreement to redacting. And then we don't understand what the 16,100 in service agreements are for.
I just went off of what Kim had done last year, because this is the first time I've ever done one.
Okay.
But I believe that everything stayed pretty much the same on it. So
Do you have service agreements that,
all of our service agreements are on, our machines that we have in the public area, things like that. And then the redacting is for all of just the documents.
or
So
do
I
you have an
probably-
annual contract with, what was it?
CSI, yes,
For the redacting?
yes,
That's the annual contract is 14,100?
yes, because that's what we did. Okay. You know, I probably typed it in wrong, because I revised one and sent, that was for the contractual services for this, though. As far as I know, everything pretty much stayed the same on it.
CSI is out.
Yes,
So
that's
we can
just for the
actually-
redaction of
we
our
can leave that
documents.
there.
Yes.
But do you have any service
The service agreements that we have are for all of our computers and the, machines next in the, public search areas.
Are those?
Probably where I ended up, because I believe that they were, the ones for CSI were paid out of the security protection, and then all of our agreements for the machines in the public area were paid out of perpetuation. I probably, because, yeah, everything was the same that we've talked to CSI about.
So you're saying 66 instead of
Right.
16?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. 6,600 instead of the 16 one. For a total of like 20,700. Yes. Yes.
That helped, that worked out?
So the 14-1 stays the same, and the 16-1 goes to 66.
So
Yes,
those
to
just flip-flop.
6,600.
They just
Yes.
flip-flop the 60.
Yeah.
We're not really sure what happened.
Sorry
to
about that, guys.
61.
No, that's, it's like,
Well, you know, it's a learning curve, so it helps you
It
next
is,
year.
it very much does. Yes, because this was the first one, and then I didn't have access to the folder, so I got it like 2 days after it was due.
Question.
as long as you're comfortable that the 6,600 is going to be maintained the same as it
Yep,
was
you're good.
in the previous years, okay?
We're good.
Service agreement's gonna change, yeah.
Yeah, from 16,100 to 6,600.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that in the form of the motion, that we approve the 1160 recorder security protection with the amendment to the service agreement from 16,100 to 6,600, bringing the total to 20,700
I will
for the
second.
23 budget.
Oops, and I will
That's okay,
second that.
that's okay.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Fund 1189,
Okay?
recorder,
One more.
which, oh, on 1189. Questions about this? Councilwoman Wilson?
Yes.
Is there a reason why you put the things in the, request for the budget this year that weren't in request last year? Like
The 500,000 contractual services, we're doing a major mortgage project right now. And that will cover the first half of it. They've already scanned all of our mortgages, to get, so we have backups on the on the computer instead of just cards. And then they're gonna put them on the computer so they'll be more accessible.
So, 500,000 is only half?
It's
So-
the first part of it. The total project's 818,000, I believe, but only the first part will be due
In 2023?
in 2023.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Would you say total project?
I believe it's like 819,000.
Okay, Chris, this is something I touched on when I talked to you maybe in June, May?
believe
I don't
so,
know which
yeah.
it was, but, and it's related to the question that Councilwoman Wilson asked. Normally in perpetuation fund, your perpetuation fund, the only thing that was appropriated was the payroll.
Right.
And you paid, you did not have to have an appropriation for your remaining expenditures.
Right.
But you have put them in the budget,
Yes.
so they'll actually be appropriated.
Yes, we were told by the auditor's office that we had to.
Okay, that's all I need?
Yes.
All right,
That's why we made sure we put it in there.
okay, all right. That's what I need to know, because I
Okay.
remember I asked you if something
Yes,
had changed.
because I got a hold of Judy and asked, and she said that that's the way they do it.
Okay,
And the service agreements, same thing, the 36,000?
Yes,
Those
yes,
are different service agreements than what was in the security protection?
yes.
Okay.
Those ones are the ones that are for our CSI programs. The 6,600 is for our ones that are on the public access side.
You're doing more training and counseling, training and education than last year?
Yes, last year they only went to one conference, and so far Diana's scheduled two. So we upped it a little bit.
And explain probably mileage.
Yes,
And your copy machine rental, you don't have a rental agreement anymore?
we do. It's just, that's the only part that they told us we had to budget, was the 500,000 out of
Okay.
perpetuation for that project.
Photo supplies, that apply to the project as well?
No, the photo supplies are our film that comes in monthly from CSI.
So it jumped from $30 to $5,000?
It's like 30,
Oh, sorry, that's how much it was expended already. Remember-
Okay.
But
I was gonna say, I
5,000,
didn't
but the
have that
budget
part.
was in 4,500 was what you spent in 2021. Sorry.
you're fine.
Chris, are you paying for your, state called meetings out of the county elected official fund? Or are you paying for it out of your,
The last one we did perpetuation fund.
is it a state called meeting, or is it
No, it was, well, yeah, because it was the Indiana,
Mhm.
or the AIC.
okay.
Misty, anything else?
We were painful.
No, you were good.
Is that one that they could, if they go full front?
They could, however, do take it out of the perpetuation fund, which that was kind of intent, was to help, I mean, for training and keep all their records.
It's got a
but-
healthy budget too.
And this doesn't impact your property tax levy fund, which I mean, if you ask me which I prefer they pay it out here.
Yeah, that's, I
Save
guess,
a little bit of money.
I guess that's where I was going, Alyssa.
I mean, that would be my thought process,
Yeah.
but.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right.
Motion?
Yep.
I will make a motion that we approve Fund 1189,
The twos, threes, and fours.
twos, threes, and fours. Yes, I gotta remember those twos, threes, and fours. Recorder's record perpetuation as requested for $682,273.
Second?
Hold on a minute. Let's not do the total, the two, threes, fours
Oh,
as
two, threes, and
requested.
fours, sorry.
As
Two, threes, and
requested.
fours. As requested. As requested.
Yeah.
No.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you,
All right.
appreciate it.
Very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Motions.
Oh, you're getting better,
I'm
Maureen.
getting better.
All right,
Doesn't
good.
like
too.
stress me out anymore. I'm like, yeah, if I mess it up, I mess it up.
All
Go back.
right, so this is one we looked at yesterday, drug court.
That's just put in there so that it's kind of a placeholder to know that we still need to review that, but
Which
I-
one is? Oh,
drug
drug court.
court. I don't have any new information.
Let me, do we have what we had given them, what we appropriated for 2022 and 2021? Judy, do you know what the balance on that is? For-
So if you look at this, so like this column right here is the adopted budget for 2022. And it looks like
What is their revenues there?
oh, it's not very healthy.
And it's all user fee, correct?
Well, the user fee plus the county contribution.
They bring in other user fees, yeah. The
So
other is
when I
like
go
supplements.
to so this right here, 56,000 would be what they are estimating for the last half of this year, and that is 50,000 from the county and 6,000 in user fees. I put just 12,000 for next year because I don't know what you're going to do as far as contribution, and we didn't have a budget. I mean, there's just so many red flags with this.
All right. Can you go back to that, what was adopted in 2021? Is it
Yeah,
on there? Is it on
Yeah,
that
I
screen?
could, but, hold on. If you look at, right now, they have just shy of 76,000 in appropriations for the remainder of the year.
76,000.
Yeah. And so with the cash they have available, there was 18,548 and 56 in revenue. So you're about, what, 64,000 and some change? They can't even fund
The rest of this year?
the rest of this year if they were to expend their entire budget.
Is this mainly because lack of user fees?
No,
I know-
I'm sorry, that's 78,000.
I know that they can get a state grant and Veterans Court can get a state grant. And I never understood why Veterans Court grant was so huge and it paid the salary, you know, out of that fund, but the drug court one doesn't, so I don't know why. I don't know. They've all, when did they bring it back?
Drug court?
Mhm.
Or, I don't know, probably about 6 years ago?
Yes.
When, you mean when it was gone for like 2 months or whatever? About 6 years.
Yeah, they can't sustain it on the user, you know, just on the user fees. Do they have payroll that comes out of here?
Well, when they had alcohol and drugs really helped drug court survive. And then when alcohol and drug dissolved and we weren't getting those revenues and they'd expended just about everything they had, there wasn't anything to help keep drug court afloat. And quite honestly, they're not collecting enough fees hardly to do anything. They don't even collect enough fees for
They
one
pay their
person.
coordinator out of this, they have rent and utilities out of this.
Mhm.
So this is, so it's in a different location completely. Does it have to be?
It's on Ohio, right?
It's across
That's a
from
whole nother issue. you know.
That kinda happened without anybody's real knowledge on it, and it was all set up.
Because rents, I mean,
Pardon me?
rent, I mean, if it, what, how much is rent running? 500?
No.
I think it's,
Oh, I thought, oh, that was something else, that was 500, that was a part.
hold on. Well, their utilities is, that one was 12, that's good, they had to catch it up. They gotta pay the gas bill. That's the only utility that they're paying out of that. No, it's not true. They have to pay Bishop Realty some of that too.
That's their,
Yeah, 1,200 to Bishop Realty twice a year,
Twice a year?
twice a year.
So 1,200?
What do they
So 24,
pay?
and then they pay their gas bill.
and
they-
then what do they pay out? Do they pay anything out of the grant fund for rent?
Not this one.
They're only paying $2,400 rent?
No. That is their gas, their utilities. Utilities is 2,400 plus they have to pay the gas bill.
Oh, I got it.
And then rent is,
Oh, okay, I see what she's saying.
rent is $15,312.54 twice a year.
The
Twice a year, so 30,000. Obviously, I mean, being, you know, new to it, and I remember talking about it last year. Sorry, should be asking.
Oh, you're okay.
But, I mean, that's a big chunk right there of the budget. And I don't know, you know, is it a scheduling thing that they have to be in a different building, room for it, you know, I don't wanna,
I think the people that were in charge at that time wanted it
want a
and
different
didn't
building.
look,
Because to me,
that's my opinion. Is that yours?
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, that's a lot of money that could be put towards other services or stuff within it.
But I believe it's a 7-year lease. Is it not, Calissa?
It is.
Yeah.
And that was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Can you pull 2021 down, so we can see which column is for 2021?
They cannot sustain without the council's help.
You want the expended or the budget?
Oh, right there,
The budget.
what was adopted.
So this is what was adopted. This-
So everything was the same until you get down to,
And
Group
this
insurance went up
2021
because of
expended
staff.
is, that's probably that's a half a year because it was when the budget was done. So don't get confused by that.
I'm trying to see where the big jump, because we went, well, 122 to
Well, it's probably payroll.
143 payroll.
What are you looking at?
Trying to figure out where the
The
big bump.
insurance, I mean, when you look at group insurance alone, that's 10,000 more there.
The coordinator is paid out of this. I think that's the only salary.
That was, yeah. Felt like that was the only addition last year. if I
And
remember.
it changed. They changed coordinators.
You actually dropped
April.
some.
They changed coordinators in April, and, I think she's got the family plan.
Oh, April of this year?
Yes.
Oh, they have a new coordinator?
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Sherry Kelly. She's really good. She's in and out right now. Her daughter's at Mayo Clinic. She had a kidney transplant. So she's been working remotely.
So really just the change from last year to this year. I'm just, what do we have? We don't have one this year.
They don't have a budget. No request in.
Can you go up to the top again so I can see like what each column is? Like where it has, you know, like what's L and M, is that?
By the time I make it so big, so you can see it there, I lose a lot of
Yeah.
functionality.
I'm just trying to think, 2022, so that's the adopted from last year.
So it's requested, adopted. And then there's adopted right there. So you have some increases in payroll.
So we're contributing 50,000,
A
Even?
100,000.
100,000 a year.
In 2021, how much?
50,000.
In 2020, how much?
50,000.
That was 20. And that, really that bump up from 21 to 22 was that coordinator position, right?
Well,
That
no,
was
it's just
addition-
because they weren't bringing the revenue, they were eating through, yeah, it's always been, but
I felt like there was an additional staff member last year. I mean, do you guys remember that, Brenda? I don't know if you remember
No.
that from last year.
no, not out of,
Not out of this. Okay.
originally they had requested a nice bump for him.
That's what it was. Okay, that's what it was. Remember that a little bit.
Vaguely.
They had wanted a bump.
A bump in pay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay, so the
We've got a really
payroll-
good bluff going
payroll
on.
is- Were they able to sustain up until last year? Were they sustainable, or
No,
has
you
it
mean
just been?
without the contribution from the county?
Yeah,
No.
Because the last 2 years prior, you said it was 50,000, 50,000.
It's been 50,000 for, I'm guessing it's been
yes.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's been 50,000 for the last 6 years.
None of that rent was.
Can they raise their user fees? Can they?
They collect their user
Can they, did they collect their user fees?
They may have doubled, but they're still low. I mean, if you're looking, what was it, $12,000?
Now, did Raider collect any? Between him and Burnell?
Success, what's the benefit? What are we getting? What are we getting for all this money that we're paying?
I remember.
You're getting a coordinator,
Who does what? Coordinates what?
drug court to try to, basically the goal of drug court is instead of them staying in jail, you're getting them out, getting them treatment,
Treatment.
and being productive citizens again.
So is that the stepping stone to Bill Watson's program? No?
Not
I
really.
think they're
really.
separate, aren't they?
They're separate programs and, I mean, it's just different things, so, I mean, Bill's kinda has the same goals, it's just, they're not necessarily trees, but they're,
What happens if this goes away?
well, it would, I guess there would be issues, or you'd have to change how you handle your drug, related crimes, and
They would just revert back to going through the regular courts?
I don't think they would have the treatment services.
The court, how long ago was it that they had that gap? Because I actually knew like the old coordinator and it was like done away with. Is that right?
Are you talking
Do you
about
remember that?
Southwick?
Right
Uh-huh,
between.
yeah, how long ago was that?
It was probably 6 years ago.
Okay, so it went away for a while,
It went away for very little time. I
yeah,
mean,
and then it came back.
because they eliminated it at budget time, and then by January, February, it was back in.
Is it because they realized they needed it, or?
Because they weren't doing what, the council at the time didn't feel like they were doing what was necessary to fund the program, they weren't, and it was kind of, it got their attention.
And that's where we are now.
And, they came back and, you know, Judge Rader said that he could, operate the drug court and return the 50,000, I'm pretty sure he said threefold. But I've not seen that happen, yet, but I don't, apparently he didn't mean in cash.
And can we find out how long this rent, you thought it was a 7-year lease?
I'm pretty sure it's a 7-year lease, because
So
I remember
Where
being,
are we in that?
I remember being in the commissioner meeting when they requested it, and they said, they asked them if they had funding for it, and they said, yes, they did, they had an appropriation, and then I'm like, what the? Well, but they said they had it all taken care of, I don't know, didn't work.
So is rent's coming from their budget though, right?
Yes,
Not from a commissioners or anything like that?
no, but the commissioners asked them if they were able to fund it, and then, I don't know, Dave, if you were here then or not, when they had the grand opening for the new facility, it was advertised on TV, and they were talking about, we have all this new furniture, blah, blah, and then they come the next month to the council and say, I need an appropriation for furniture. You know, and it's like, we moved into this new facility, and we have to get furniture. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure you already have your furniture, so the council's hands were tied, basically, 'cause they'd already taken it and everything, and
Yeah, my biggest question is like before, I don't know, I guess before any kind of major decision, I'd like to know where they are. It's like, do they have 1 year left? Do they have 2 year? Do they? Because I mean, I think, you know, it's a little bit different if we're at the end of it.
but I think it was after they'd already been there.
Yeah, when did they start that?
19 or 20, so let's, to 20 to
Oh, like 19, 2019.
26. So through 26, they would have that. I don't know exactly when in 26.
So,
I don't know, that was the other question.
But were they
I would
able to
assume that,
pay? Or-
I would assume that any agreement would have a clause if it's not funded. Because that's kind of a standard thing, that if, you know, if there's a funding issue, then you're not held liable. And they can get out of an agreement. So maybe October
October
of 26,
26.
September, October of 26.
Every person I've talked to there says, we don't know why, you know, we have this, why we have these bills, why. Well, their coordinator, she said, you know, that money's better spent on the participants in the program, and, you know, we shouldn't.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Mhm.
They can't, if they didn't even want to go so far as to even present a budget request, I'd like to make a motion that we cut it back to the 50,000 where we were paying before.
And you're saying fund a budget for approximately 62,000? Or not even fund a budget?
I'd like to say not even fund a budget, but we have payroll involved here, that people, so
Well, but 52,000 won't even cover payroll.
62 doesn't cover payroll?
Or, 62, yeah, no, because
Oh, well, yeah.
Got
you've
the
got
family plan.
46, 50, 56.
How did they do it before? They added a person, didn't they?
No, not to this fund.
How did they do it with 50,000 before, or
Prior to-
62 before?
Prior to
There
last
was,
year.
Prior to last year.
Let me
because
look
they
and-
had the cash balance
Yeah, let me
to
see what the
sustain
cash
it,
balance
and then
was.
it just kept eating away at it because it was over budgeted.
All right, the end of 18, their cash balance was $122,099. Then they entered into that contract in 19, the end of 19. And their cash balance was 109,449, the end of 19. Cash balance, the end of 2020 was 26,875.
It's basically, what, $85,000 swing right then.
Yeah.
Yep.
In 2021.
14,324.
But now we're back up to 67 because we've deposited 50.
I just did that in
But
July.
if you go by the June 30th without, yeah, so
Yeah,
basically 17,000.
Yeah, I did it the
so-
1st of July. I know the coordinator, I dealt with her a lot since she came in. She's just really done a good job and hard job, and, she's there, she's passionate for the participants. I think most of them there that work there are.
I mean, is it possible that doing this would cause them to look for the grants that they aren't getting? They-
Federal grant that covers 3 employees,
So that is part of the payroll.
not on
No.
this.
But
They
it's
have a
not
different
on
fund. They
this.
have a
It's in a
different
different
fund.
fund.
They have a grant fund. And it covers 3, the employees. It was that big FAMSHA grant that vet, court, and drug court got.
Judy, do you know if this is considered matching?
No.
So they don't need matching for their,
Well, they do have to, the one thing, when they did the year 1, they needed to bring on another case manager. Year 2, another case manager. Year 3, another case manager. That was paid through the grant. It was a 5-year grant.
but on the 5-year grant, does it require matching dollars, or either dollars or in kind?
No,
From us.
no.
Okay, so it's not contingent on this? Okay.
No. But, I don't, that grant funding, if it goes away, they,
What was payroll in 20? Just add those up, right? 75, 77.
46, 60, 66. What, so maybe 83, 84,000? That look about right?
About 75.
Well, because your insurance is 17.8. I mean, I did that in my head, so.
Yeah, the insurance.
Seventy-four, 253. So apparently I was wrong. 74, 253. 22. Yeah.
And you've contacted them how many times to try to get this budget?
Well, they've received their notices for budget, and then that, when I was trying to get the last few that hadn't been turned in, I sent notice out, asked them to submit their budgets. And I've not heard anything.
I mean, it's not right.
Yeah.
Did you try to follow?
Want to push it again, or do you want to make a motion to only cover payroll?
Personally, I like the program. With a presented budget presented would have made our job a lot easier. Without that budget, so I would personally, I would fund payroll.
I have a hard time, I mean,
I like the program.
Yeah.
yeah. But I have a really hard time, and I'm frustrated that we don't have the information. But I think when we talk about our jails, and if you talk to, and, you know, David, you can kind of chime in here, one of our biggest problems, crime-wise, everything else, going into our jails has a lot of ties to drugs. So if we, you know, I get the frustration, because I'm frustrated too, and I just wish we had answers to, like, explain how we could do this. But for me to strip down drug court, which is one of our biggest issues in our community, I've seen it with impacting families in our schools, and I don't know what I mean, I'd feel better tabling it and just at least trying more time.
I will tell you that the coordinator, she even traveled to Kentucky to speak with another group, a woman that does a lot of grant writers and all that stuff, and was talking to her about what could they do, so I know you got some people in there that are working.
Why can't you come in and talk to us? I mean, I'm not asking you that, I'm just wondering. I know how that goes too.
Do you have the total amount of user fees since 19? Is that easy to?
As you're looking that up too. My other concern is if we just fund payroll, I don't know what the contract looks like for the lease and what we'd be responsible for. I mean, does it have that stipulation, like, I think it was Calissa that mentioned it? Because, I mean, that could be a whole other issue.
$2021 user fees were $34,321.
301?
321. And as of right now, user fees are $8,841.46.
And that's as of today.
That's as of today.
What was it again, Judy?
8841.46. Sorry.
That's
I mean, in January, $440 all they brought in, but then, no, that would've been December, sorry. And then of, June of this year, they brought in $22.92.
Those are on target, about 17,500 for the year, less than all of it.
Taxpayers cover.
Yeah, taxpayers are covered to pay. I guess.
Maybe a conversation needs to be had with Judge Sheehan. I mean, I can try to schedule him in for the 20th, 21st.
I would go for that. I mean, my feel, I don't think the taxpayers should cover for lack of user fees. I love the court, I get all that stuff, I think they're trying to do good things, but the fact that they didn't turn a budget in and expecting taxpayers to pay for the rest of it, I've got a hard time swallowing. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if he wants to come in, and explain or answer our questions, or somebody from that office. Maybe that's the appropriate thing to do.
I'll try to get them scheduled for either Wednesday or Thursday.
That's,
I mean, quite honestly, I am going to expect the answer when they get questioned about user fees that, you know, the economy's so bad right now, we can't afford to get it.
it's bad for everyone.
Yeah, I know,
I
but
get it.
that's, I mean, that's what I expect.
So everyone else that doesn't, use drugs has to compensate. It's not fair.
you know?
My issue with that too is, I mean, I know we're talking about taxpayers, and if we don't get people off some of these drugs and some of the programs, and this one, I would like to see the history of their success, because I know there has been some success there. We pay in another way, whether that be, you know.
I don't know if the true success was under alcohol and drug instead of drug court. I'm not really sure
Where
where,
it shows up.
I mean, I don't know who would, I mean, Bernie Burns, but Bernie Burns no longer works for the county, you know, he would be a resource, but,
All right. I would ask, when do we meet, the 20th and 21st?
yeah.
We do have Wednesday, the 20th?
Isn't it the 20th? I have,
20 and 21st.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
See if it is possible that he or someone from that office that could answer questions.
And maybe show up with a budget. Okay.
I think
And
we would all
and a
appreciate
3 to
this.
5 year plan. Is that asking too much? Okay.
Okay. Hold that one back.
All right, we will table.
Now, with this next one, you're gonna start back up through the, I guess maybe you already have a little bit.
So the next one is Fund 4972 Engineering.
Yeah, and it's behind drug court about 4 tabs. There is payroll in this one, but we will not look at that right now.
Yes. Revenue?
They receive 75,000 from edit fund, 75,000 from Cume Bridge, and I believe it's somewhere around 100,000, maybe a little bit more. Might be more than that. For permits. And then they get a $40,000 payment from the state for an engineering match. So about 290,000 a year.
Did you say about 50,000 in permit, or 100 something?
It was about 100,000 permits. And that permit, it really fluctuates a lot, so I mean, right now, they're on pace to maybe, probably closer to 120, 130, but, you know, one good joint will make your numbers look really good, and then next thing you know, you don't have any permits, and they go south fast. In the past, we've never really worried about, the operating balance, because their main funding source was from Edit and Cume Bridge, and we always knew that if we needed more to fund, we would just pull from there and increase their supplement. So, what were you saying, Judy? I put it in as, like 100,000. You mean the, for it, oh, 100,000. Because it was 75, 75, 100,000, and 40,000 for the engineer, payment that we get from the state.
The actual increase between the 2022 adopted budget and 2023 requested is just 10% increase in payroll.
Yeah, and then he did say on equipment new that you could cut that in half. I'm not really sure the why.
Okay, so that's beneficial.
I had written down on, oh, I forgot, the agreement with the city and the,
Signals.
The 9,600,
I didn't know what that, I got it.
it's for light signals, stoplights. I am anticipating at some point that's gonna go up because it's been $9,600 for 20+ years.
That's it.
But at one point, we only had 2 or 3 signals in the county. We've grown.
Mhm.
So equipment new, he said he could cut.
Cut it.
That was
Okay.
what my notes were, that it's cut in half, so. I think it's because they'd always just asked for the 5, and we said they hadn't really been using it, cut it in half.
Did he talk that first day?
He
Okay, I
talked,
wasn't here for that.
it was either the first or the second. You weren't here,
That one.
then it had to been the first. But you watched it.
I watched it.
Yeah. Okay, you have any questions?
I'd like to move that we approve, Fund 4972 engineering, with the exception of, the
Payroll.
amendment to 44, with 2 3s and 4s, exception of line 44,510, equipment new to 2,500 from 5,000.
I will second it.
Motion on the floor and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. 9101, is this one from yesterday as well?
Yes, it was. And I gave you an email that I got from Joni. I've not really had a chance to go through it. But we had some questions about that fund and one of them was,
Trust.
it's 9101, I believe.
Is that the email you provided?
Yes. But there was a question why the contractual services, or professional services went up, and that is because the fees for Liberty Tire Service, which is for Tire Amnesty Day, they have increased. So they were looking at an increase there, so that explains that one. Contractual services did not change.
So you said that's under professional
We went from
to
5 to
725?
Again, you'll be doing the 2s, 3s, 4s. And you'll note at the bottom of this email that they're not submitting a 2023 budget for the health donation. So that's like 2 tabs before, it's 4103. That one, well, you'll never get that, it won't happen, so we can mark that off the list. So that's 2 of the health funds. The non-reverting, they're not submitting a budget either. We're not budgeting that for the health rate. And the health donation, they just don't have the cash balance left to do it. I think they'll have like if they spend everything this year, they'll have less than $300 of it. So at this point, you're looking at the 25,000 for contractual and the professional services. You didn't report it. But I'm locked out.
Any further questions from committee?
Okay, move that we approve 2s, 3s, and 4s for Fund 9101, LHD Trust, Local Health Department, as requested.
Okay.
Motion is second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
That may be your best motion ever.
I know.
Next fund, Highway 1176.
This one has a lot of payroll that you're gonna have, and you also have 3 sub-departments within the highway fund. So you have Highway 1, Highway 2, and Highway 3, or Highway Administration, Maintenance and Repair, and Construction, Reconstruction.
Do you want the cash balance?
Yeah, hold on just a second. And, so all of these have their own cash balance, correct?
No,
Or is it-
it's, they are kind of like sub-departments within, so you have one cash balance for all of them.
What is the current balance?
$718,416 as of June 30th.
But we have to turn around and also include the,
1173.
which it gets
You're
you
right.
up to 3 million something, I think.
Yep, you're right, 1173, because I split that each month. So Fund 1173 has $2,778,385.
Yeah, I did that first too, and I'm like, there's something wrong here.
All right.
So let me get to this real quick, and that might help. But it is a fundable budget.
I don't know, I was gonna say, I just gone through this one too. Looks pretty much the same, the only thing, gas is up significantly.
Well, I do know, I just received his email for what he's gonna be asking for the remainder of this year.
This year.
It's up there good.
For fuel?
And then you've got line 33, 800, gas, water, fuel, oil, and coal. I'm assuming that's different than just like gas.
That's
gas
more utility driven.
utility stuff,
Yeah,
which is still an increase, because
yeah. So that,
really those are the only.
that
increases.
column right there is the one we're looking at. And, I mean, you're looking at an operating balance of 2.4. If you look at, we'll see how close this is. if you look at your Baker Tilly thing, which we'll talk about it later, but it has, you kinda have to look at 1176 and 1173 combined. They're projected to stay pretty fundable at current levels, so and maintaining your operating balance, really. So you must be at a good place, a good even you know. So you have the ability, if something really comes up that's an emergency, that you can address it. It's on page 3, Phil. You should, it should, but at one point it was the top one.
Yeah, I've got like a gazillion.
Yeah, they're different years, years.
Oh, I got you.
There you go.
So when I
It
did
starts
close.
out vertical or,
It's the one, yeah, it's the one I
portrait.
did the one I tore apart.
What'd you say, the third page?
Go on the third page and about halfway down, fund 1176 and 1173. And scroll over, you know, what they're projecting the operating balance to be at the end of 2022. And even if you scroll over a little bit more, you can see you're pretty much maintaining. Now, the goal with that restricted is that you get that to 0. Because it's kind of a screwy thing the state has in place now, that they give the county their money and then they say, okay, these are your restricted funds out of your MVH, and they can only be used for reconstruction, construction, different things. So then we have to move that money to another fund, and then we make an adjustment to pay for the expenditures out of the 1176 that are eligible. So there were some struggles getting that balance right in the first years. I think 2019 might have been the first year that it was in existence, the 1173. So we've kind of had some struggles getting that balance, but, you know, it's moving in that direction. And I think that it'll change and switch a little bit more, because he's got that fine-tuned a little bit by now, so I think that you're gonna see different. Let's see if there's anything changed.
On the first page?
I mean, gasoline changed, of course, decreased the supplement to community corrections because they're not using, I think they used to buy their lunches and do some different things, and it's kind of changed how they do that. He touched upon that at the meeting, I'm sure.
Comp went down.
Yeah, that's not really anything in their control. Now, it's kind of interesting, electricity is staying the same, and if they're having a 16% increase, I don't know. But it looks like halfway through, they'd only spent 14,000, so that ends up 28,000 and 35 should be enough, I would.
Are you still on the first page?
Yeah, did you see electricity?
Right underneath.
Oh,
workers'
good,
comp.
I guess, right.
Before you get too far down there, Calissa, the gasoline that he's asking, 350, is that in line with where we would be this year? Or is it less?
I'm still looking. Oh, gas. So-
24,
Oh, there it is, I
400.
see it now.
Because it looks like in this.
He's asking for 70,000 more, and I'll tell you what,
It was 280.
because I talked to him before, and
He spent.
he was
170.
trying to figure out kind of where he needed to be. Gasoline budget adjustment. Okay. So. Here it comes. He's asking for 100,000
More.
for the last half this year. Well, I guess,
that would
or
put
for
him
the
at-
remainder of this year.
That put him at 380.
From the email that I'd sent out,
No, that put him at 280, because he's at 171, 857. So far
He
expended
asked
for
for 280.
2022.
thousand left
And with,
But he's asking for 100,000
additional.
additional, so it'll go from 280 to 380
380, okay.
for the total budget for 2022.
So he'll be over by 100,000, and then we still think 350 is accurate for 2023? Well, yeah. That's correct.
This right
I
here
think
is
he's
not.
closer than he was this year, I guess. Unfortunately.
And this was when I pulled everybody that had a gasoline budget, and I went through and I calculated what I thought would be a ballpark number. He's within the ballpark of what I calculated. Now, the only thing that I did not do is I did not address any fuel efficiencies, because I really don't know how to calculate how successful they're gonna be. So, I mean, that's, you guys can determine how you wanna address that, so.
So one of these, any,
When it's in the, I believe it's in 532. In the 23960 paving and repairs. That's the line right there that, when it comes right down to it, after we have payroll numbers and everything, we need to make adjustments to get it to the advertised amount. That's the account adjustment.
Which
So
one it
how do
is,
we make
maybe?
notes of that? How do
Pardon
we-
me?
Sorry, we were talking at the same time, go ahead.
No, I don't even know.
I'm sorry. How do
And-
we make note of that? How do we
When
remember
we get to the
adjust that?
point where we've got payroll in, then we'll know. I mean, I have a note in here. It's something I know that's where we adjusted to if we're over advertised amount. And also that shop and field.
Yes, I
too,
was gonna
we
ask
have
about that. To 5,000 rather than 3?
Yes, I don't know if I've changed it.
So when we,
43,101.
I've already changed it on mine to 5,000.
She said five.
So,
So he just didn't submit anything under payment and repairs? That's
No,
what-
he has a number in there. It's just that if we need to, yours doesn't have a number in there?
1,570,000?
1,570?
Oh, I'm in a different one, never mind. Different page. Oh, yeah, there it is. Got it.
23,960.
It's okay.
When these ones,
Yeah, we do these one at a time, or?
If you're good with all of them together, I mean, you can do it all at once. I mean, except for the ones. You're only gonna do the 2s, 3s, and 4s.
Any further questions, concerns?
I move that for Fund 1176, we approve as requested with the exception of in maintenance and repair, local 10531, line item 43101, shop and field tool be amended to 5,000.
I will second,
And that's for the 2s, 3s, and 4s.
Yes.
and I will second that.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 3-0. Fund 2050 supplemental juvenile probation.
I do not have the additional information, so we're gonna have to, I'm gonna check, make sure I didn't get anything else from let's see,
Is that one we had tabled, or was that?
it's the one where they have a funding issue and they're gonna have to, I explained to her that they would either need to adjust what they're requesting for 2023, amend their 2022 budget, or a combination. And she was going to work on that and get back to me.
Okay.
So,
Move on with 2050. Next is 4959 Juvenile Justice Center, non-reverting. Balance?
Forward. It's under.
Revenue.
hold on just a second. Okay.
Supplemental two.
Oh, got it.
This being.
Or juvenile non, I have them down, but I looked at it and, what, 320,000 a year. They've been bringing money in pretty good, pretty well. 320 is why
That's the revenue source.
because I want to say that in the first 6 months, it was like 180,000 or something, but I kind of backed it off a little bit. Just to be conservative. Yeah.
Is what they
but-
brought in.
Yeah, but I think like a June 30, it was somewhere around 180 something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, so that puts us right in there. So, I mean, honestly, I think that if there's things that you need to shift from the general fund to this fund, you have the flexibility to do that. And the other thing that I would consider is that this revenue was originally in the general fund. General fund, and it was moved to its own fund.
This is the one that we get for.
Housing
County.
out of county.
Just so I know, I think I'm correct, but when we get to the general fund account, we can come back to this.
Yeah, you can do it to any of them. Until the council slams the gavel down, at your budget adoption, you can change this however you want.
I think if I recall, his increases in here, a lot of it was food.
It's got a
And-
lot of increase. One of the big
Yeah.
ones he has in here is
Equipment, yeah.
contractual services that includes 50,000 for medical coverage.
Medical coverage.
It starts with a Q, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll have someone.
Quality something.
Quality
I don't know,
something
whatever
care.
it is.
Quality something care. QCC, yeah. There we go,
Yeah,
thank you.
so
I couldn't read my own writing.
that, I believe that was covered before under the jail and was shifted
Yes,
to the juvenile
yes.
center. So
I
that
have
was
that.
like 50,000 that he's anticipating. I don't know what the other 16,000. He's got a,
Breakdown.
well,
Nope.
he put what he at, well, he might in his letter. He's got a letter here. Cost of all therapeutic programming, which is 18,000, and the cost of the medical provider. So there's another 8,000.
And did he say anything about the equipment new of $30,000? For some reason,
I think he said there was no plans for that, nothing in particular.
no
plan.
ideas in particular, yeah. He just put $30,000.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And quite honestly, if you would prefer, when we do the general fund budget, then come back to this and do it all at one time, we can do that too.
That might work. I know when I was looking at the, general, there were a couple things, wearing apparel, stuff like that, I think that could move, that could easily move to this that are one-time purchases.
I don't, well, the interesting thing is for this wearing apparel, when we think about, a lot of times we think about wearing apparel, we have our shirts with the logos, but
It's uniforms,
some of
right?
this is for the
Whites.
detainees.
Yeah.
They're- So it's some of their uniforms or whatever it is they wear. So I mean, it's kind of two different things. It doesn't matter if they both go in the same account, but, because I know it increased, which one it is.
Yeah, I don't think it was employee wearing apparel,
Yeah.
from my impression, I think it was inmate. So that might work, with this one to come back to it when we're,
And part of the food was because they were not allowed to take some of their reward, like pizza dinners and, you know, like if they did something well, they were no longer able to take it out of the fund that they were taking originally. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, that's.
Does that sound about right, Judy?
they got,
He wrote about that in the letter.
Yeah.
see, we got audit, so.
Yeah. Yeah, they changed some stuff, so. But if you want to hold off and do them together and kind of look at them side by side, and yes, we can most certainly do that.
We will do that. We will move to Fund 1179, Parks, non-reverting, operating.
We won't address the payroll now, but part of that payroll is the Griffith Bike Park manager that he would like to move to the Parks General Fund. That's been a request since the park opened.
What's the revenue on this account?
It is higher than it has been in the past. I think their camping fees and shelter rental, they're really up. So,
It, credit card system and doing everything online, it really went up.
Or it's just easy to pay it.
Do we? I can't.
Wow. He's already brought in almost 165,000,
yeah, it's pretty sizable.
and we haven't even really hit.
Yeah,
Several
summer.
weeks.
Mhm.
It's-
Non-reverting operating, I put 240,000 for the year. I put 110 for the last 6 months.
What was it?
110 and 240. 110 for the last 6 months.
That's your estimation?
That's my estimation. I mean,
It looks like he's added a line item of 44,101 for improvement, $50,000.
yes, he wanted, facility improvements and amenity improvements combined. Just have one line instead of So if you look at it, well,
Facility improvements, amenity improvements of zero.
yeah, he went from basically a, what, 30, here we go, a $22,000 budget requested 50. Now, this brings up an interesting thing. He's not requesting anything out of equipment new for the parks non-reverting, but in the edit ask, he's requesting 66,000 for equipment. I talked to him and I told him I didn't know that the council would have an appetite for paying for equipment out of edit, since it's not really an economic development driver. In the past, you know, the council said no to equipment, which I don't know what your appetite is, but I told him, you know, maybe he should plan on something else, in which it may very well be those amenity improvements or improvements to parks that could go to edit, move the equipment, which ends up taking 16,000 more out of this budget and, you know, 16,000 less out of edit.
But it looks like he could sustain it.
Oh, yeah.
You move all of it, right? Is this one, we wanna do something similar than what we did to the last one? Wait till we get to,
You might want to when you get to edit,
it's
so
got
that
a
way.
healthy balance, and he's,
It's fundable. It's a fundable budget, and he's pulling in pretty good money. I mean, if he's, you know, in the over 200,000 range, and he's asking for 173, so the 16,000 will not be detrimental. So, and I think that which you also may need to, while you're looking at the Parks General and edit, because that payroll that's in there that he wants to shift. And that, I mean, historically, when the Parks Department, it was under the old superintendent, when they came to the council, this will not cost any taxpayer dollars, we'll use user fees, things like that. And so the council has held pretty firm to the fact that they were not gonna pay for that bike park manager out of the property tax fund, which is Parks General. But they ask for it every year.
how much did you say he was asking for out of edit?
170,000,
170 out of edit?
yes.
And that's with the salary.
No, that's with the equipment of 66,000.
66,000. But he was asking for a total of 170,000 out of edit?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was asking. What was the additional stuff for?
You mean other than the edit, other than the equipment? Go up here to the parks. So it's 66,000 for equipment, 40,000 for electrical upgrades. The Riley Locks property improvements, 2,000. The fish cleaning station for
Oh, that's right.
32,000.
Yeah, okay.
Walking bridge replacement, Elliott Woods for 10,000. And shop and air conditioner heat in the break room at Hawthorne is 20,000, which I don't know if that would be considered an economic development.
So these improvements are different than those that are in,
Correct. When I look at these, I feel like some of them, they've kind of gotten off track of what economic development contribution was supposed to be for. You know, because originally it was when they were doing, you know, the Wabasha over there, they were doing, working on the new park with Keith Grable Park, they were, you know, big projects like that, and felt like that it was improving the whole park system and adding to what we have. Now we're just kind of just spending money out of edit, so. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but some of it seems like it's regular operating instead of,
Yeah, the break room thing, I think could come out of here.
How much?
20
20,000.
I did remind him that he got an extra 250,000 out of the 22 budget for Medit, so
Okay.
that it, yeah, he increased it from the 250 and
250 to
added another
500.
250. So,
Well, not this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, do it all.
Do it both at the same.
Parks and Edit, so that when you're looking at, like, all three simultaneously. Okay. So, the next ones in the list is really just for your information. Those are, the rest of the yellow tabs that are not, either public, or not public safety, lit dollars or property tax funds, so. So they, but these are payroll only, and since we don't have any payroll information, there's really nowhere we can go with them, but at least you know they're on the list. So,
So this is lit or property tax?
well, no, these aren't lit or property, these are the ones other than the yellow tabs that are
Okay.
not lit or property
Ah,
tax.
that's what you're saying. Okay, got it.
And there's a couple of them that will have funding issues. And I wrote them down. I can find my note paper. Supplemental adult probation will have funding issues. Adult probation DOC grant will have funding issues, as well as the sheriff's sale. All three of them have funding issues.
Health
So all-
maintenance does not.
Health maintenance does not. So, really, except for the ones that are payroll only, or the ones that we wanna come back and revisit, your yellow tab's pretty much done.
good.
But I have some thoughts, you know, like maybe some other discussion points that we wanna look at and take care of, and we could finish up the evening with those.
Okay.
And then be prepared to start on the property tax levy funds, but I'll need revenues for those. So, I know Cheryl said that she had most of those finished up. Yeah, so maybe by, was it 20th is our next one? By the 20th, we'll
20th.
have,
She looks all right on those?
yeah, because she has numbers from the state on some of those, so
Good.
we need to have firmer numbers. So,
Adoption schedule,
like your budget adoption schedule.
September.
Well, I mean, that means
is
your
that-
first reading's in August and your adoption is in September. So we'll have to be able to have everything ready, but I know she's been entering, Cheryl has been entering, and if she's got the revenues done, I don't anticipate that there should be a problem. But I know there's some concerns about adopting in October because we're gonna be at City Hall. And sometimes we have problems getting our information, and that may not be a meeting that we wanna take our show on the road. So,
That's probably true.
So we'll be here still in September, just October meeting.
we're here even, I think we're here the first October meeting, but we're not here the second October meeting, which that would be the adoption date. We did in October. The voting meeting, we're at City Hall, I believe we're here for the sunshine meeting.
Okay, that would make sense. But we still might need to see stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so.
Yeah, so, and I know that one of the other pushes that we have is that we want to get a lot of our meetings done and finished and completed so that once school starts and we all have different schedules that,
It's a little bit easier.
yeah, take advantage of the summer months.
Yeah, I'm a lot, I mean, the 3 to 6 actually hasn't, I mean, like I can rush over, I mean, that's not bad, but, I could be here by 3:30. But, you know, ideally, I don't,
Keep that in
last
mind.
year I took off like 7 or 9 days.
We can
That
get it
one-
all
that one you have
done
to
by
do that.
September, that'd be,
So you guys okay with that schedule?
oh.
Yeah, so when are we aiming to have
So the,
first
in Sep-
reading?
August.
we're aiming to
First
have what?
reading is in August?
Would be the August meeting. Really the 9th, because they don't have to, it's just a reading. You don't vote on it, you don't do anything, you just,
Just
So
read it.
that's at the
you
vote.
just read it. But I feel like right now, you're in a pretty good place with Gateway and getting your documents. Mm-hmm. So,
So then we
And adopt.
Then adopt.
September, okay.
Yeah,
Is that the same
I'm,
Tuesday?
I just I didn't have that date off the top of my head.
What was
but-
it, 13th?
Yeah, so if the first reading is the 9th, I believe it has to be in Gateway and pushed out to be public by maybe the 6th, 5th or 6th, so. And there's a couple other things in September that's a conflict, and I don't think you gain that much.
is this even possible with the next question?
So the Baker Tilly update,
Yeah, so, I don't know if, did Cheryl print you one of these out? And now what I can do is I can see if I can get to my email.
so that brings the question about the adoption. Are we, without that information back, are we all right for the first reading in August? We're just doing the twos, threes,
Without,
and fours?
well, this is the Baker Tilly update, the financial side, not payroll.
But this is what Jason presented at our meeting, right?
Yes, but we have an updated copy.
Okay.
This has been changed from what you got 2 or 3 weeks ago.
This one here is,
This is the updated one.
you have it?
Yes,
With higher percentage because of inflation.
well, they've made it, they've kind of changed some of the assumptions, and one of them was they allowed more for inflation. They estimated a 96% expenditure rate on the budget, because in the past, we've never spent 100%, so they kind of went with 96. The one telling thing that I want to point out to you is page 3. In total, it looks really good. But I want you to go to the county general, which is the first line, and look at that number as it goes across, but then in 23, look at where you're getting to, I mean, you're losing $3 million a year in operating balance. And that's even with the assumption of spending 96% of your budget, not 100%. So we are outpacing our revenues. And like I said, by their estimation, it's approximately $3 million a year. Now, some of your numbers, 2021, you know, those look like, wow, we did a lot better then, but those had some, CARES money in there, and things that inflated, and there's a couple different things that inflated that cash balance. So. And you will see that Cume Bridge, if you go down there looking at a negative balance by 2024. I'm assuming that, I mean, the budget would have to be amended so that you wouldn't get negative, but that's kind of ties into one of the things that I had talked to you about last week, where Cume Bridge, those projects are eligible for ARPA. And I have encouraged the commissioners and talked to Larry about it to see if they could move bridge projects to ARPA. One, that helps out that fund, and it gets our bridge projects done, and they are eligible expenses on what would be considered the restricted money. Now, ultimately, that's not my decision, but I feel like that would be a valid use, and it's kind of a long-term goal for the county.
Any closer on the plan?
Pardon me?
Are they mentioning they're any closer on a plan?
I've not heard anything.
Okay.
So,
I was wondering.
but, so I mean, like, that kind of gives you a good idea if you kind of look, I mean, a lot of the funds are still looking, if you look across, there's not a lot of change, but I will say in rainy day, they're anticipating we spend our 480,000 that we never spend, but we can, I guess. We could if we had to. Health maybe is gonna be time that we have to start thinking about shifting some of the levy to health. You potentially look at parks continues, well, it grows until 22 and then it starts dropping again, but we can look at that. That's one of the ones you can shift, and you can also shift reassessment. So we can kind of play with those levies and adjust this, you know, the pieces of that pie, because with the levy, you get one pie, but you get to determine how big the pieces are. That's my best analogy I can give you. It makes it understandable.
So you said health, rainy day, reassessment, and park.
Rainy day is not a levy fund, so your levy funds out of this are county general, health, reassessment, and parks. And then down below, you have cumulative bridge and cum cap development. But they're not calculated the same. They have it's rate based, and so they have a rate that gets charged, and it's not the amount of the levy. So their piece of pie is fixed. Okay, so. And the cum cap development, I did not have a chance to talk to Cheryl, but I looked at this earlier. Our budget for cum cap development, I believe, is around about $500,000. What we have expended cum cap development for the last 15, 20 years, something like that, has been for the courthouse renovation project. So we had a bond on that. That bond gets paid off this year. The fund doesn't go away. We have another fund it's called Courthouse Bond Fund. That one will go away. This one stays on, because that was just an additional funding source. So we can use that $500,000 a year approximately, and use that towards big projects. Which I think that will help along with, maybe the riverboat money, and looking at how we're gonna fund some of these things out of the general fund, because with that general fund declining by $3 million a year, I feel like there's gonna have to be some changes. I mean, 16 million is still not a bad operating balance, but then it's 13 million, and then it's 10 million, and then you're like, uh-oh, what do we do now? We've gone too far. So I think it's my opinion that you need to start moving in a direction that kind of at least curb that. For sure. And like I said, I got this first thing this morning. I've not had, I've been working on other things during the day. So I haven't had an opportunity to look at it completely, but that's just kind of a preliminary. And keep in mind, kind of touched about, I think it was a question that Brenda had earlier today. On 24 and 25, the funds that are listed in here, it provides the uses, you know, what you can use those for.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
So I think that may be useful to you.
That's nice.
This one that, okay.
Yeah. That's good information.
So, I mean, if you guys get a chance to look at that and you have other questions, let me know, and we can kind of go through that. And like I said, a lot of the update was because I contacted Baker Tilly, and I scheduled a time to sit down and talk to them after I reviewed all the funds, you know, to get some of the things corrected that weren't right. And one of the things that was the reimbursement to county general for jailers' pay from lit public safety, I believe. It was not included in the revenue stream for the general fund. So we got that included, and so it it helped out a lot. So, cause I mean, it's $3 million just this year because it was 21 and 22 reimbursement for this year.
What about the fact of not having compensation?
Do you have any idea?
I think we're getting closer, but I don't have anything for costing yet. So,
I feel like we talked about it. Was there, if we don't have it back on our schedule of office in September meetings, is there a way to move forward without that?
yes, what I would suggest is you appropriate dollars for, payroll and know that they may need to be adjusted in 23, once you have the results. And then before the end of the year, we adopt a salary ordinance so that January 1, the auditor's office has the authority to issue paychecks. If for some reason we don't have it by then we're gonna have to look at potentially just adopting the same thing and then doing something retroactive. Amending the salary ordinance and then doing retroactive pay to January 1. But I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. But we have options. They may not be pretty and they're not gonna be as if it was complete, but we can make it work. And then the next thing that I have on here is the property tax levy funds. Kinda wanna know what your goals are as a committee and as a council. Where do you wanna be? Because that's gonna determine where our budget can be. So, I mean, do you want a percentage of, the annual expenses as the operating balance? Do you wanna set a flat dollar amount?
Goal? The pie in the sky goal? 6 months revenue.
6 months revenue?
6 months.
You want half a year's expenditure? Or it's,
In the operating fund at least, yeah.
okay.
I don't know if that's achievable.
It may not be achievable in 1 year, but it could be something to work towards. So,
Thoughts?
Just need to put in there.
I know there's been concerns about expenditures exceeding revenues. Do you have any goals as far as that, or at least some sort of mean, I realize
I
that you may
tabled
not,
it, but we've still.
you may not be able to get there in 1 year, but if you want to reduce that amount, or maybe don't exceed by a certain percentage, or, and you don't have to give me an answer now, but I mean, at least
Start thinking about it.
Start thinking.
start thinking about where you wanna be, because that's gonna drive a lot of, when we get to the pink tabs and some of the yellows, that's gonna drive where you're gonna be. But and you should probably look at this and try to figure out if there's anything in here that, you know, that says, okay, this gives me an idea of where we're at, what we're gonna do. And then we'll go from there, I guess. But it's gonna be tough, I can tell you that now. Because one, if we're only spending 96%, we're probably over appropriated. Some of it may be payroll though, that, because it's vacant positions, but maybe we need to figure out where we're over appropriated and then determine if there's places we can shift things. So I mean, it's not gonna be just cutting.
There's not a
It's how we're
question that
gonna-
we are over appropriated.
Okay.
We definitely are over appropriated.
But I mean, you may have to shift, so it's like,
But-
okay.
And you've brought up, as we've been doing stuff, you could shift it to this budget or to this, or you know, wherever. So I think when we start getting in that general, just have to kind of look at where we can do that.
Yeah, so that's where I think, like I said, you can kind of get some things shifted out and moved around, but, and especially maybe some of your larger capital outlays, if there's something we need to look at, either the riverboat fund that we know that we've kind of worked on that one to get things moved into a capital development. You've got your cum cap that you can work with that a little bit, but I'm gonna caution you on the cum cap development fund that it really should be big projects. It, you know, shouldn't be, oh, we need carpeting in our office. Can you take that out of cum cap development? I think that it should be more long-term projects that have a benefit for a while.
Well, same with our money,
Yes.
definitely.
And I will tell you, that's my opinion. That's just all it is opinion.
Yeah.
It's not really worth a whole lot. I just think that you're levying a tax and you wanna be able to say, this is what we did for that tax. It's not just normal operating.
Right. That's the benefit for it. So,
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's been a lot of discussion on the existing jail and what you're gonna do. There you go. Another thing I did wanna point out, if you go back to this, page 3, that would probably be the easiest place. And if you look at your 911 and lit PSAP, those are both related to dispatch. Those are getting up, I mean, by 24, you're gonna have healthy operating balances in both. But keep in mind, they want to move. There's your fund, you know, it's not gonna be cheap to move them, but you have funding available for it.
Move them, you mean physically move their location?
Yes,
Yes.
there's been some discussion
Yes,
that they
about
wanna be moved to a different location, whether it's purchasing another building, leasing a building, whether, I know there was some discussion about moving them to the federal building.
Right.
And the one good thing about that one, I think, but I don't know this for sure, I would think that you wouldn't have to move the tower. So, because they said to move that tower, you would expect at least $1 million. And that was 2 or 3 years ago, they estimated $1 million, so I don't know what that would be now. So, but that gives you you have the ability there, and you have, you know, the funding sources that you can move them if that ends up being the goal of the county.
Yeah. It's
It's already
secure,
secured, fenced in, and everything.
I don't know how big it is.
it's pretty good size.
I mean, so,
It's bigger than what they have.
but I don't know, is that something that only dispatch, is it, or is it something that,
Big enough for something else to do, though.
yeah? I don't know how big it, I mean, I really have no idea how big it is. You we hate to have wasted real estate if,
Maybe drug court could, I'm kidding.
It's, I mean, also, you know, it's close enough too. Bill had talked about that they're running out of office space and stuff too. I mean, it's literally right across the street.
I feel like that might be another issue.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
So that's kind of what I have. If you have anything else you guys want to discuss or question, I mean, I'm happy to at least take notes and get you an answer or try to field your questions.
I think, start the next meeting with, you said what our goals are.
Hmm?
Get those squared away, start the next meeting with that. So, as a committee, we would think about those before the 20th. Do you have anything?
No, just, I'm highly concerned about not giving the salary compensation back. I think that's gonna skew everything, or it's going to, I don't know, like you said, I think it's probably workable and workaroundable. That's a good word.
I'm
Um,
not saying that it's gonna be easy, but
No, but
there,
it's
there's,
gonna be what it is. It is what it is, and we're just gonna have to deal.
I
And we
mean,
had
'cause-
just estimated everything out. Cheryl had done that at 10%. Just-
you know. Now, here's the here's the
But just,
downside.
I mean, just so we know.
Well, or you set your own, you guys set your own percentage, but you also need to go through and look, like, your added positions, you know, if you're looking at funding new positions, and so I would
Because
say,
that could come out in the study too.
it won't really come out in the study if you need new positions. It doesn't tell you that. It's telling you the positions you have, here's what we think
I think they're about.
what the value of those are, so. It doesn't, they're not gonna do a study, a workforce study where they tell you how many positions you have in each department.
Further?
You guys have a lot to think.
Should I hold this on the plan?
Judy, you have anything? Clear on the August 9th, September 13th, run it past, make sure. That would definitely be. Anything?
And I'm pretty clear. We go back, our teacher work days are August 8th and 9th. If I have to wiggle on that, I can try, but, until then, other than this weekend, I'm pretty free, so.
Okay.
I feel like we've made good progress so far. But you're gonna get to the really hard stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we've been lulled into a false sense of security that's gonna be.
Well, kinda, yes.
We will move to recess until July 20th, and it's 3 to 6 as well, correct?
Yes.
Recess until July 20th?